and welcome to VOP Business Show. I'm Kayla Abraham. The value of Nigeria's exports may rise to at least 41.99 trillion naira per year following the Central Bank of Nigeria float of the naira. The Apex Bank had last Wednesday directed deposit money banks to remove the rate cap on the naira at the official investors and exporters window of the foreign exchange market to bridge the gap between the official and parallel market rate of the naira. It stated that the Central Bank of Nigeria wishes to inform all authorized dealers and the general public of the following immediate changes to operations in the Nigerian foreign exchange market. Abolishment of segmentation. All segments are now collapsed into the investors and exporters window. Following the move, the naira fell from its 471 naira per dollar to 664.04 naira per dollar and closed the week later at 663.04 naira per dollar. The weakening of the naira against the dollar means exporters, especially the federal government, will make more revenue from export dollar proceeds. According to the International Trade Center, Nigeria's total export in 2022 was $63.34 billion at 448.55 naira per dollar. Its naira equivalent was 28.41 trillion naira, but now its naira equivalent would translate to 41.99 trillion naira. If Nigeria exports the same quantity it did in 2022, it will make about 41.99 trillion naira. And with the government's plan to ramp up oil production, which is a major component of the country's export, Nigeria's export value is expected to increase. Meanwhile, the extended debt burden of the 36 states in the Federal Capital Territory may rise by as high as over 40% following the recent floating of the naira by the Central Bank of Nigeria. According to the Debt Management Office data, on Tuesday, June 13, a day before the CBN changed its foreign exchange policy, the total external debt stock of states was $4.46 billion as of the end of December 2022. By Friday, the debt stock, while retaining its dollar value of $4.46 billion, had grown to 2.96 trillion naira at 663.04 naira per dollar. This means the states will need revenue in local currency to pay their foreign obligations. On Wednesday, June 14, 2023, the CBN directed deposit money banks to remove the rate cap on the naira at the official investors and exporters window of the foreign exchange market to enable its free float against the dollar and other global currencies. According to data from the FMDQ exchange, this led to an immediate decline in the value of the naira. The local currency fell from its 471 naira per dollar to 664.04 naira per dollar at the investors and exporters FX window. Meanwhile, the naira has continued to rise and fall on the investors and exporters window since last week. The Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative on Tuesday asked the federal government to not renege on its decision to stop subsidy payments on premium motor spirits, popularly called petrol, despite the opposition against the move. NEITI also announced that it had commenced a study to determine the actual consumption of petrol in Nigeria, stressing that the high PMS consumption figures being released by some agencies of the government were not correct. The Executive Secretary, NEITI Ogbonnaya Orji, disclosed this in Abuja while speaking to journalists on the sidelines of the Stakeholders Validation Workshop on the 2022 Annual Progress Report for Nigeria's Extractive Industries. Orji stated that NEITI knew that subsidy removal would throw up a lot of other issues, adding that one of those issues that we know will happen is the actual consumption figure. The NEITI boss, however, stated that some steps should be put in place to cushion the immediate effects that subsidy removal had brought to bear on the very vulnerable, less privileged poor who were spread across the working and non-working class. The International Labour Organization is taking actions to guarantee that domestic workers have access to good quality jobs as global demand for these workers is expected to rise. In light of this, it has introduced a comprehensive strategy consisting of 5 steps to improve the working conditions and rights of domestic workers globally. Domestic workers, who often face some of the worst working conditions, play a vital role in society by providing essential care services to private households. However, the ILO stressed that their contributions have often been undervalued. An ILO report published in 2021 found that 81% of domestic workers were informally employed due to either gaps in legal coverage or gaps in implementation. Meanwhile, it noted that this can be attributed to gaps in legal coverage and implementation. However, it stated that due to the increasing demand for care services worldwide, the need for domestic workers is expected to rise. The director of the Conditions of Work and Equality Department, Skuti Dasgupta, stated that she strongly believes that by following the steps inspired by the good practices presented in the report, and a significant process can be made so that decent work becomes a reality for domestic workers. Domestic workers have ensured our daily care needs, and it's time to ensure they enjoy decent work. According to her, the strategy aims to provide practical solutions to empower and improve the lives of domestic workers worldwide. ILO disclosed that the strategies were based on government, employers, and workers working together through phases which include the process of involving estimating domestic worker numbers and informal employment share, analyzing gaps in labor laws, and identifying drivers of informality. It, however, stated that it would be developing targeted strategies, implementing an action plan through social dialogue, and monitoring progress towards the objectives of formalizing domestic work. A former general manager, consumer products at Motorola, Chris Odwe, as well as former chairman of First Bank of Nigeria Limited, Ibukun Awoshika, on Tuesday, led the line as top business experts shared insights for business growth at this year's Global Leadership Summit for Business. The summit, themed Leading Effectively in Uncertainty and held in Lagos, was headlined by a host of accomplished experts and thought leaders from around the world. The event aimed to equip business leaders with the critical skills necessary for thriving despite the uncertainties that pervade the 21st century marketplace. According to the governor of the Leadership Project, Godman Akinlabi, the winds of change sweeping across the nation and the world at large beckons the need for effective leadership for businesses aspiring to excel. In her keynote address, Awoshika urged businesses to learn how to adapt to the dynamic and constantly changing business environment. Finally, over 300 officers in the Ogun State Civil Service who have obtained additional qualifications have taken the upgrade examination to seek promotion to professional and sub-professional officers cadre. Speaking to journalists during the monitoring exercise of the upgrade examination, which was held at the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, the chairman of the commission, Tokunbo Odebumi, stated that the upgrade would encourage officers to always acquire knowledge that would help them in career progression. Odebumi expressed satisfaction at the conduct of the examination and the commitment of officers in the state's ministries, departments, and agencies towards the implementation of the developmental agenda of the government. He assured workers in the state that the current administration would not relent in providing necessary resources and supports to improve their productivity. According to her, many businesses fall short due to insufficient information on how to engage the relevant apparatuses of government. On his part, the permanent secretary in the commission, Mr. Adedayo Shomoye, appreciated the state government for creating an enabling working environment for civil servants to flourish and focus on the discharge of their duties. Speaking on behalf of the candidate, Mrs. Titilayo Oshoko of the Ministry of Information and Strategy and Mr. Moses Bankole from the Traffic Compliance and Enforcement Agency lauded the state government and the Civil Service Commission for the conduct of the examination. That's all on the VOP Business Show on VOP TV. We would like you to subscribe and engage us on YouTube. It is Voice of the People TV, and on other social media platforms at VOP TV Live. I'm Kayla Abraham. Thanks for watching.